After setting up the action on your guitar, what you will usually find is that the lower end of the fretboard is going to feel really good to play, be nice and smooth, and it will also sound really good because you won't have any dead notes or any buzz notes. But that won't always be the case for the upper end of the fretboard, and that is because of the saddle height. The saddles are going to control the height of the strings on the upper end of the fretboard. If the saddles are too high, which means the strings are too far away from the fretboard, that's going to cause the guitar to be very uncomfortable and difficult to play because you really need to push in to get a fretted note. On the other hand, if your saddles are too low, that's going to cause two things. One is just your standard buzz note, and the other is a dead note in your bend. So instead of being able to bend to pitch, you get this, where the note gets cut off. So even though the guitar might feel and sound really good down here, that might not always be the case for the frets over here. Now, as a general rule of thumb, if I grab my ruler, by your 12th fret, the distance between the string and your fret should be anywhere around 1.5 to 2 mil just to get you started. Now for me, it's currently at a little over 3 mil. And then if I check my high E string, even my high E string is around about 2.5 mil. So I can tell you just straight up, other than of course being able to feel that they're too high, mathematics say that my strings are technically a little bit too high. So what I'm going to do is drop them down. Now I just want to reiterate the fact that a lot of the measurements that you can find online for your guitar, they can work and they can be very, very, very helpful. But that isn't going to always be perfect for every single guitar. So if your guitar is really out, you don't really know what you're sort of doing, research some of these numbers and, string height around the 12th fret should be about 1.5 to 2 mil, and then make your adjustments to fit somewhat close to what is recommended, and then change it depending on your style and your individual guitar. Step one, as you'd expect, is to just tune up your guitar. Make sure everything is exactly where it should be, and then we can make our adjustments. Obviously my guitar is still getting used to having the 11 gauge strings and the new action and bridge height and everything, so it's still going to need some time to finally settle in. But now that everything is in tune, I can grab the tool that I had all of 30... There it is. Okay, we need one of the smaller Allen keys. Here we have the saddles. To make our height adjustment, we need to be looking here, but just for reference for later, these screws are what we'll use to adjust the intonation of the guitar. Now my saddles, like I said, are a little bit too high, so what I need to do is go to each of them and then loosen them off. One thing to note while making adjustments to the saddle height is to ensure that you've got a slight curvature of your bridge. Now if you want a visual image of that, have a look at your acoustic guitar right by the bridge nut thing, and you will see that curvature. Now unfortunately for me, I have just adjusted the saddle height on my guitar with a floating bridge, which means the slight change in string tension has caused the bridge to slightly fall into the body of the guitar. So what I'm going to need to do is watch back my video and remember how to adjust this properly. I remember, but let's just double check. If the bridge, like mine, is too high. Now that I've adjusted the saddle height and fixed the bridge on the guitar, we can have a quick little mess around, a little improv session, and make sure there are no buzz notes, there are no dead notes, everything feels smooth to play, and everything sounds good all over the fretboard. Once we've done that and we've confirmed that everything is right for the guitar, we can talk about intonation. When we intonate our guitars, all we're doing is making sure that the higher frets are in tune with the lower frets. If my low E string was played open, we would have, of course, the note E. On the 12th fret of the E string, we have also got another E. With good intonation, this E here will be in tune, and so will this E over here, relatively speaking, because it's still a guitar. With bad intonation, we'll have an in-tune low E, but then our E at the octave on the 12th fret, this will either be a little bit sharp or a little bit flat. The longer and thicker a string is, the slower the vibration will be, which will cause a slow, big wavelength like this, which will create a lower pitch. The shorter and thinner the string is, the quicker the vibrations of the string, which means the quicker and shorter the wavelength, which results in a higher pitch. If the note on the 12th fret of the guitar is a little sharp, that means that our string is too short. If it's sharp, it's short. To fix this, we of course need to lengthen off the string, and to do that, we tighten up the screw over here by the saddle, which will grab the saddle and pull it further away from the neck, closer to the bridge, and that will drag the string and make it a little bit longer. Then of course we have the inverse of this, where the note is a little bit too flat. If our note is flat, that means that the string is too long. So if it's too low, the string is too long, and we need to make it a little bit shorter by loosening off the saddle, which brings it closer to the neck, and slightly shortening that string. If the note is sharp, our string is too short. If the note is too low, the string is too long. And then you just need to counteract that with your physics brain that you've just developed after learning about sound waves, and figure out that tightening the saddle means it goes this way, lengthens the string, loosening off the saddle, it goes this way, shortening the string. So just adapt that to your situation. Step 1 is to tune up the guitar. As we tune up the guitar, I just want to quickly reiterate the fact that guitars are quite the out of tune instrument. There are so many variables going on at any given time. You've got the position of each of the frets, you've got the gauge of the strings, the angle of the strings over here into the tuning pegs, you've got the nut, you've got the bridge, you've got the saddles, you've got the height and everything, and the angles of everything is going on with the guitars. So it's next to impossible to get a guitar perfectly in tune. With every other aspect of setting up your guitar, which is the cleaning, the conditioning, the restringing, and the action, everything like that, it is completely fine to do with the guitar laying on the desk. But with intonation, I've actually found better results by holding the guitar in my normal playing position. So when doing the intonation, hold the guitar in your lap. We're going to start with the low E. That's the first string that I want to intonate. Step 1, like we've said, is to make sure everything is in tune, which we are. Next step is to play the harmonic on the 12th fret. As we can see there, we're also in tune. Now we need to play the fretted note on the 12th fret. So first the harmonic, and then the actual fretted note. As you can see there, the harmonic is basically in tune, minus maybe 2 cents. But then the actual fretted note is a couple of cents too sharp. Now that is basically within the realm of being intonated correctly. That's almost perfect. I'm basically okay to just leave it like that. But I want to be a little bit closer to perfect. So what we're going to need to do is adjust the saddle. Now as we saw, the note was a little bit sharp, which means the string is too short. So we need to lengthen off the string. And to do that, I tighten the screw by the saddle. So lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. That should lengthen the string and slightly flatten it. So we retune the string, play the harmonic. The harmonic is again pretty much in tune, and then the fretted note. I've made some adjustments and it really hasn't affected the intonation much. So what I might do just to make my life a bit easier is loosen off the string a little bit. And now there will be less tension pulling the saddle this way, and it should be a little bit easier to tighten up so I can make some more drastic changes. I've been through the rest of the strings and most of them seem to be within about 5 to 10 cents, which for me, considering this is a floating bridge, I'm starting to get a little bit frustrated, that is good enough. We might actually just switch over to another guitar and go through it all over again, just for the sake of the tutorial. But I have noticed, funnily enough, the G. The harmonic is basically in pitch, but then the fretted note is 15-20 cents a little bit too sharp. So again, sharp means the string is short, so we need to lengthen off the string a little bit. Go to the saddle, find the G, and then tighten up the screw. There we go. We are within 5 cents again. So G string is done. The rest of them I'm okay with. Let's move on to another guitar. The Strat and the Tele is going to be the exact same way because it's the same sort of bridge, but the Les Paul is going to be slightly different. So we'll have a look at the Les Paul. Les Pauls are going to be intonated basically the exact same way. Where's the... there it is. Tune up the guitar. I don't actually think I have played this guitar since restringing it, so the strings are quite out of tune. Play the harmonic on the 12th fret. which is telling me we're about in pitch. Play the fret to 12th fret, which is telling me we're about 10 cents too sharp. So the string is too short, we need to lengthen it off. To do this, I will be needing a flathead screwdriver instead of the Phillips head that we have been using previously. And we may also need to really loosen off the string. I'll show you why in a second. With the close-up on the bridge, here you can see the access point for the screw, which we need to adjust the saddle here. And because it's right there behind the string, we actually need to loosen off the string and then move it to the side. Just like with the Ibanez, my note was a little bit too sharp, which means the string is slightly too short. So to lengthen it, we need to do the exact same thing we've already done and tighten up the screw, which will drag the saddle back a little bit. And in turn, that will lengthen the string. Just bring it back maybe a turn or two. It's actually really annoying to do because the screwdriver is ever so slightly too short. Alright, that's about 1.5, 2 turns or something like that. Put the string back on. Let's tune up. There's the note in tune. There's the harmonic in tune. And then the fretted note is now within about 5 cents. So we could do another couple of turns, or exactly what I want to do. We're just going to move on to the A. So again, tune up the string, make sure the string itself is in tune. Harmonic, fretted note. That was within 3 cents, which is fine. So next we do the D. Harmonic. That's within 3 as well. G string. Harmonic. Okay, that is sharp by about 20 cents. So put the guitar back down, loosen off the string. Note was too sharp, so the string is too short. Lengthen it by tightening up the screw. Unfortunately, with all of this, it's literally just check, adjust, check, adjust, check, adjust. You just keep going on and on and on and on and on until you finally get everything right. B string is next. That's about 10 out as well. So again, within about the 5 cent range is usually what's going to be acceptable. My top 3 strings, the E, B, and G, are all about 10 to 15 cents out. So I'll keep adjusting those, and then that is how you intonate your guitar. I'm tuning this Les Paul down to drop C, which is a very metal tuning. All we need to do is take each of the open strings and tune them down 2 frets, which is going to be a full tone or a full step, and then also take my low E string and drop it back an extra tone as well. And that is going to give me the notes C, G, C, F, A, and D. Because I've tuned the strings as low as I have, that means that they're going to vibrate a lot more, and that is going to cause the string to smack against each of the frets. To fix this, all we need to do is to create more separation between the fretboard and the strings, which is of course controlled by the action. So I'm going to create a little bit more of that downwards bow, create more distance between the string and the fretboard, and then that should fix this problem. After I've done that, I will also intonate this guitar. The last thing that we'll do in this episode of the Beginner Guide to Electric Guitars series is we'll adjust what is my 4th string that I've tuned down to C. My harmonic is in tune, but the fretted note is flat. All the adjustments that we've made with intonation up until now have been done when the note is a little bit too sharp. And now we've got a note that is a little bit too flat. So just to aid to the tutorial, let me just quickly show you how to fix a string if it is too flat. So if it's too flat, it means that the string is too long. So we need to shorten the string. Because we are using my Les Paul, I'm going to drop the string down, move it out of the saddle. On this Les Paul, the screws are actually on the opposite end, so over here. And because we are on this end, I need to tighten up the screw, which is going to grab the saddle and pull it a little bit this way, slightly shortening the string, and therefore it will sharpen the note ever so slightly. Let's put this back in the saddle, tune it back up, and check the intonation again. The guitar is now in tune, so we can play the fretted note, and we are within about -5 cents. So that's good to go. To finish off this video, let's do a brief little summary over everything that we have covered in parts 1, 2, and now 3 of the Beginner Guide to Electric Guitars series. Step 1 was to remove the strings of the guitar to then clean and condition the fretboard. The reason that we clean and condition our fretboards is first of all to just protect the wood. That's a big aspect of cleaning and conditioning your fretboard. But the other main reason is with a clean and lubricated fretboard, there is going to be less friction, so it'll be easier to play. After this, we of course restrung the guitar with 11 gauge strings. In step 3, we set up the action of the guitar. What we want is a slight downwards bow of the neck. If we have too much of a downwards bow, we want to tighten up the neck. If we have too much of an upwards bow, or if the neck is flat, we then want to loosen off the truss rod. Once you set up your action, you'll find that the guitar is probably going to be a lot easier to play, and you won't have any dead notes or buzz notes down this end of the guitar. On the upper end of the guitar, you might still be experiencing some buzz notes, some dead notes, some cut-off bend notes and stuff like that. And to fix this problem, we need to look at the saddles on the bridge. After we did this, by raising and lowering the saddles, we then adjusted the intonation, making sure that the guitar was in tune with itself. If the fretted note on the 12th fret of the guitar was a little bit sharp when compared to the harmonic on the 12th fret of the guitar, that means the string is too short and needs to be slightly lengthened. If the fretted note on the 12th fret was slightly flat, that means the string is too long and needs to be shortened. To adjust this, we also have a look at our saddles. Instead of raising the height, we either push it closer to the neck or we pull it further away closer to the end of the bridge. For my Ibanez, we did have an additional step because we have the floating bridge. If the bridge is angled a little bit too far up like this, that means the springs in the back of the guitar aren't creating enough tension to counter the tension of the strings. So let me paint a little picture for you. If the bridge is angled up away from the body of the guitar, that means that there is too much tension being provided by the strings and not enough counter tension being provided by the springs. So we need to tighten up the springs in the body of the guitar and make sure the bridge flattens out. If the springs are too tight, the bridge will go into the body of the guitar, angled this way, and we need to loosen them off slightly to make sure that it is equal with the tension being provided by the strings. And that is everything that you need to know to be able to set up your guitar. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, thank you all so much for watching. I will see you in part 4 of this series, where we compare the tone, the sound of the Telecaster versus the Stratocaster versus the Les Paul. We may even play this at the end of it as well.